Welcome back to another episode of Pest Control Millionaire. Got a really exciting podcast for you guys today. Got a couple of studs out of North Carolina. We have Branden and Lindsey with FineTurf. Met these guys, what has it been, 2 years now? Probably close to
2 or
2 years
3,
ago.
yeah. Pretty close.
And, it's been a minute, and they have just absolutely been crushing it. They do a lot of pretty much all fertilization weed control, but we'll get to the chat about what they got going on in North Carolina. But guys, it's been a pleasure getting to know you guys. Love what you guys are doing. You guys are absolutely murdering out there, and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Of course. So real quick, we'll take each one of you. Let's go with Lindsey first, because that's who's on my list first. Kind of just tell us here, you and I are high school, like you junior, senior. Who was Lindsey in high school?
So I grew up in Augusta, Georgia, for the most part, right around the corner from the Masters.
That's where that nice Southern accent comes from.
Yeah. It's a lot bigger than it was back then now, but it was pretty small. Went to West Side, played some sports in high school, didn't really love school very much. I liked history, but that was kind of where it stopped. After high school, I just started working for landscapers, different residential guys around town, one commercial company. But there's not a ton going on in Augusta. And I got into some pretty good trouble pretty quick after high school, just terrible decision making, and left Augusta when I was 21. So a few months after my 21st birthday, moved to Charlotte. But that whole time from like 16, 17 years old to 21 is kind of a blur of poor decisions. Moved to Charlotte at 21 and just was working for a couple local landscapers here, doing mostly just like mowing and hardscape and landscape install and stuff like that when I first moved up here.
Did you always want to be an entrepreneur as a young age, or was it foreign to you, or were you side hustling? What were you doing?
Well, I think I look back on it now, and it's hard to say what really, I was thinking at the time. But, I moved up here. I was 21. I was working for other landscapers. I was probably somewhere around 22, almost 23. And, all my friends I went to high school with were like graduating college and getting married, and were like what appeared to be like way further along in life, and so you get that feeling of like left behind, or, not as good as, or not good enough. And I was like working for a guy, and I was pretty much running his company. Like he had a different job, and like I was the guy there in the morning. I was quoting jobs, I was ordering material, dropping checks off at the bank, starting to learn some of the books. I would see him like once every, 2 weeks or so, other than like a phone call every couple days. And I wasn't making very good money. I was making pretty good money for like, I guess, my experience and age, but I saw the money that was coming in, or at least I thought I did, because I didn't really know much about an expense line at the time. But I just remember thinking like, well, if I can do this for him, then I could do this for myself. So I did. I quit and had a partner who was working with me there, and we started just a mowing and landscaping business. Didn't know anything about fertilization weed control, absolutely nothing. That's how I met Branden. So we were mowing. I don't know, it was probably like first year, maybe second year, but probably first year in business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, I'll never forget this day. It was hot as hell outside. It was miserable. And I had a steel backpack pump sprayer on, and I was spraying broadleaf weeds. I don't know what chemical I was spraying. Some rep probably said, put this much in here and spray this. And like, I had no idea. This thing was leaking all down my back. And I mean, it was like, hindsight, that's probably the worst pump sprayer ever made. And I just remember going, this is stupid. Like, I don't know a thing what I'm doing. This is a really nice yard, really nice house, and I'm about to wreck this. And then we're going to lose all the mowing, the mulch, like everything we actually make money on, that we know what we're doing. So I posted in a forum on Facebook. I said, hey, something along the lines of like, I'm out here spraying yards and I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Does anybody spray yards and want to spray my maintenance properties? And then Branden responded and another guy named Jay Wyrick responded. And we're like, yeah, we'll spray them. We'll send you the mowing leads. And I'm like, perfect. This is great. So I met Branden that Saturday morning for breakfast, and we went and rode all the maintenance properties. And he was like, well, I'm doing some mowing, but I really don't want to mow. And I was like, well, why don't you just give me the mowing?
Smart one of the bunch then.
Yeah. I was like, why don't you give me the mowing and I'll give you the spray, and then we'll just work together and send business back and forth. And so we did that for probably, I don't know, 2.5 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when we merged companies. And then like 6 months after that, we ended up buying Jay's company, the other guy who commented on that post. But that's how we all got to know each other.
That's cool. So I think you said something earlier, but I think that's with a case with most people. Like we're humans, right? So if we're bored, we have nothing to do. That's just what's going to happen. Like you just get in trouble. You have nothing to do. So like with all this AI stuff coming along, and like maybe it's going to be universal income, like it's not going to go well if that's the case, because everyone's going to be bored. Everyone's going to be causing trouble. So Branden, we'll switch over you real quick. Kind of tell me about what were you up to in high school? What was your upbringing? What were you up to? And then we'll kind of merge us all together.
Yeah, I mean, our stories are definitely a little different. I mean, I did growing up playing sports. I was always like relatively gifted in terms of academics. I didn't really have to study. I did well. And like, I guess my parents or it was assumed that I'd be like an engineer, a lawyer, something along that track. So I ended up going to college, went to University of Florida, graduated, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I bounced around majors. I settled on like an English degree because I thought I was going to go into law school. And then once I started applying to law schools, I was like, I don't really feel like getting this much debt for a job I don't know if I'm going to like. So at the time I was dating someone who's from another state. So we ended up moving away all the way to Vermont. I took a job working at a golf course. I mean, I was weed eating, pond banks. If I was lucky, I'd get to mow greens, raking bunkers, that kind of thing. I did that for about 2.5 years. And I was like, I'm really interested in turf. And then, during that time, I moved back down to Florida, was working on golf courses down there. And I was like, if the only path to move up is to go back and get essentially a turf degree. So I really liked the industry and I wanted to become an assistant and move up. So I went back online, did Penn State's turf program, worked my way up to like assistant superintendent, did that for about 3 years. And then at the time, my now wife, then girlfriend, I was with her for about a year. And I just kind of saw the writing on the wall of like, as I continue in this field, my hours are going to increase. It's going to be a very long time before my pay is I'm compensated with my pay. I want to do something different now that I'm with someone who I can see having a life with. So we actually moved to Pittsburgh for a year. And like 6 months in, we were sitting at a bar, just having a drink. And I'm like, I'm going to start a business. And it was totally out of the blue to her. And that's kind of where, for the next 6 months, I was kind of planning what I wanted to do. And that's where the business idea came from. But in terms of when I was a kid, like my dad had a few businesses growing up. They weren't super successful, but I did get exposure to what it's a little bit like to like control your destiny, and kind of basically live life on your own terms, I guess. And so that's what really inspired me to start a business, was like, I wanted like control. It wasn't that I had necessarily this like entrepreneur inkling growing up. It was just, I found that I wanted control over my time and money.
That's cool. That was a question that I had written down when you were talking. What did your parents do for a living? You said, I know your dad was an entrepreneur. What else? What did they do?
Yeah, so my mom was pretty much in HR for about 30 years, worked for the same company, very stable. My dad some of the businesses he had basically like a subcontracting business down in Florida where they would like redo cabinets, redo whole kitchens, that kind of thing. And then he also opened up a restaurant as well, but his background was in restaurants, like general manager of restaurants. And his biggest skill sets were like, running a restaurant or selling. And so his businesses kind of revolved around that.
Hold up, quick pause. If you're on a pest control company or fertilization weed control company, you're not in our Facebook group, you're choosing the harder path. Every operator that's in there is skipping years of mistakes because people are actually sharing what's working right now. So stop trying to brute force your way through growth alone. Search Pest Control Millionaires on Facebook or click the link below And now let's get back to it. And then so you're in the bar. Say, hey, I'm gonna go start a business, but you're in Philly, or you're in Pittsburgh at the time. How do you make it over to Charlotte?
Yeah, so for like the next 6 months, so we love the city of Pittsburgh. We didn't want to leave. There was no rush. So for the next 6 months, I was kind of thinking about what I actually wanted to do. I knew it was in lawn care. Didn't know what it was going to be, whether it was going to be mowing or fertilization, weed control. But I just started looking around, like, where's a good place to move to? Because we ultimately knew that my wife loves warm weather. Pittsburgh wasn't a long-term option. I didn't really like Florida because it was way too hot for me. So we're kind of looking for somewhere in the middle. So there's not many super affordable cities in that transition zone, and Charlotte was one of them. And one of her really good friends happened to live here, so we visited him one time for a long weekend, and I just got sold on it. My wife wasn't sold on it at the time, but we kind of just made the decision, like, this is a great happy medium for our lifestyle, and Charlotte's a great market to start a business in.
Yeah, that's cool. So then how did you start the company? How did you decide what you were going to do?
I knew it was going to be around mowing or fertilization weed control. So what I did was, when we knew we were going to move here, I did apply for a bunch of jobs, and I got a few assistant jobs. But then I was like, you know what? If I'm going to go into lawn care, I might as well apply also to a lawn care company to get some, residential lawn care experience. So I started working as a spray tech at one of the national chains to kind of get exposure to what this business was. So while I was doing that, 7 o'clock in the morning, 3 p.m. And then after that, and on weekends, I would just start working on the side, passing out door hangers in my neighborhood, that kind of thing, just slowly building up clients essentially. And I did that for about 8 months until I quit the job and went full time.
Cool. So they go full time, and then you work for the next 2 to 3 years, or as long as that before you guys meet.
Yeah, it was about 2 to 3 years. I'd given up the mowing. It was just fertilization and weed control. Had maybe 500-ish clients, give or take. And we just essentially decided to join forces at that time, became a full service company, which we no longer are today. But at the time, because we were passing leads back and forth, it made sense then.
Yeah. So, you saw the writing on the wall early from mowing to fur. What was that? Like, what made you say, hey, I don't want to do mowing?
I mean, initially I was doing the work myself and I hated it. I didn't like the actual mowing part and weed eating and all that, and all the equipment that came with it. And then the other part was just, I knew that you get more value out of fertilization weed control, and it is more interesting to me. There's more science, there's different ways to do it. And it's a simpler business model. So that really attracted me to the fertilization weed control, but a lot of it was just, I enjoyed it more.
Gotcha. So then you guys get together, and now you're doing both again.
Yep.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And we did
You
that.
had to go back into the mowing game.
Yeah, we did that for 2 years or year and a half, give or take. We're basically, a year and a half, 2 years full service, and we sold off the mowing a little over a year ago at this point.
Yeah.
And we stopped doing any kind of landscaping.
Yeah. So when you guys first came together, how did you guys decide who took what role? And we'll talk a little bit about the partnership after that. But how did you guys know, like, who's gonna take which role? Which person's over sales? Which person's over ops? Like, you guys already have your specialty skills, something you guys had to talk about. Both of you guys are entrepreneurs at this point. Worked on your own for a couple of years, so now you have a partnership. Walk me through all that process.
That was probably one of the easier
Yeah.
pieces of it. Branden has always done like our finance and projecting and budgeting and anything related to finance. He's just way better in that area and really good at it and enjoys it. So that was a pretty easy thing. I much prefer the sales side of the business, so that was kind of a very obvious thing. I think the bigger, like when we had merged, was we were so small that you still have to wear like multiple hats. So the ops position, like we really weren't in any position to afford like someone to handle like production or ops. So I mean, it kind of seems like we split that up amongst like you handled the fur, and then we did have a guy that was a manager that was helping with the fur, and over time, the mowing got handed off. But I was always very heavily involved in the landscaping just because, I mean, that's such a terrible business and super unscalable. But I mean, it's hard to find someone who can quote, order, and manage, landscape install, which is why it's a terrible business. But So I kind of did that portion of it. And then slowly, as we grew, we just had better people and managers that moved up and handled different areas of the business.
Yeah, and I'd say too for me, it was like that the thought went into before we merged of what are we going to do, even though we kind of knew what it would be. But when I just was like deciding whether or not I wanted to do it, like I knew like down the road, I wouldn't want to manage a sales team. I wouldn't want like I would like half the business. There's portions that I'm not good at that I'm not super passionate about, and our skill sets are like dramatically different. So it was just a good pairing essentially. Like I didn't mind selling when it was just me, but did not want to run a sales team.
Right. Whose idea was it to come together then? Who approached who?
I think I approached you. So my partner at the time kind of had different interests. He didn't really want to grow the business much more. And I did and needed to grow the business. And I knew that Branden had the skill sets that I didn't. And I don't even remember when I brought it up or how it got discussed. Maybe just texting back and forth, or
I can't remember the first time. I know one of the conversations you guys were doing work on my property. You and Brian were there, and we were talking about it.
maybe so, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, that's an interesting
And you're
guy.
like,
He
yeah,
plays
this sounds like
Yeah.
a great idea.
Yeah.
But you mentioned like you mentioned the easy things. Like so you guys knew that the roles to be easy, right? You already knew who was going to take which role. What was the hard part about it, having a partnership?
Oh man, merger is hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard in so many different
Were you
ways.
both on different softwares at the time?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that was hard. The people side of it is hard. Learning to work together is hard. Communication is difficult. I mean, our businesses were the same industry, but they were very, very different. You know, very different. Like, just looking back in hindsight, like the learning curve on me just learning real green was difficult. Because I wasn't there for the setup of it. So I mean, that was difficult, and then learning how to make money and hire, and I mean, essentially, our business doubled overnight, right? So you go from like a $500,000 business and 600,000 or 600, 700,000, and now you're 1.1, 1.2. That's not big in the grand scheme of things, but like when yesterday you were 500 or 600 grand, and now you're $1 million, and you have 5 new team members that you've never met, and there's not many things that are easy about it looking back. It was.
Yeah, I think for me, in terms of the partnership, is just communication. Definitely one of my worst skill sets is communication for sure. Meaning, like, especially not having a partner in my business previously, it's like I'm not really having to communicate necessarily or have, especially when you're smaller, as many decisions that go through someone else. You only have a leadership team when you're smaller. You make all the decisions. So it's communicating all those things back and forth, communicating where you're at on stuff. So to me, like hands down, communication was probably the hardest thing initially. Yeah, well, you get to a point with anyone, whether it's your partner, business partner, manager, or whatever, where you kind of start to know what the other person thinks. You're a little bit more in sync. But when you first join together, you don't know what they're thinking necessarily. You don't know where their head's at on a certain problem. And so if you're not talking through those as well as you should, it can become, I guess, unsettling or take longer than you would think to solve that problem.
How long of a phase did you guys go through where you felt like you weren't on the same page to where you guys are at now?
It was like the business was crazy. It's changed so much so quickly.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if I would put a timeline on, I'd probably say like a year-ish. But it's like a continued growth, though. It wasn't like at a year, it's just like 100% better. But I would say once we started getting more of like a leadership team around us, we had other people that was more than just me and him making decisions, and we had to go through other people and org charts built out. That made it a lot easier as well. But I'd say a year was pretty tough.
Yeah. And then how long do you guys run the full service business for?
So we sold the mowing division off the end of August of 23.
24.
24, yeah. So just about a year and a half ago, we sold the mowing business off.
So that was a little about 2 years into our partnership.
So you guys run full scale service company for 2 years, and then decided. I remember we talked a lot through this over the past couple of years, and when you guys were thinking about selling, how you're going to sell it, and then how long it was taking, and like, was that a hard decision for both of you to decide? Hey, we want to sell this part of our business.
No, it was awesome. We were in we were in Texas visiting Luke with Emerald Lawns. We went down to South Louisiana, went fishing, and then drove over to Texas and hung out with Luke for a couple of days. And the whole time we were fishing, Luke's like, "You got to sell the mowing business. You got to get out. You got to get rid of it. Like, just don't even sell it. Just give it away. Like, just like it's just stupid. You're being stupid. This is ridiculous. You know what I mean?" And a lot of people hate the mowing business, and I don't ever intend on going back into the mowing business, but we did well in mowing. Like you know what I mean? Like we were doing
I
well.
remember. Yeah. It's not like you guys were losing money. You guys are very profitable.
Yeah, we were doing really good at it. And so I texted a guy that I knew here locally that he mowed and didn't sprayed, and we sent work back and forth. And I said, "Hey, you want to buy my mowing division?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "How much would you be willing to pay for it?" And he threw a number out, and it was like, there's no way we were turning that down. It was just really good. It was a good sale. So I remember I think I texted or I said something to you in Texas, and I was like, "Hey, you want to sell the mowing business?" And he was like, "I don't think we get enough for it." And then I told you the number, and you were like, "Yeah, I'll sell."
Sold.
Yeah.
So yeah, we sold it quick.
And that was a year and a half ago.
Yep.
Yeah. I was gonna say, it wasn't the mowing business was that bad. It was just we're at the point of that business where like we were gonna have to hire a full-time manager for mowing. Like our ops manager couldn't handle it. You really had to decide like, are we gonna actually build out a mowing division or get rid of it? And that's just the path we went.
And you guys just have got them for Texas. You're talking with Luke at Emerald, and you already have this idea in your head, like, hey, we want to get out of this. And then like the stars just aligned, and you made one text message. You got a good offer, and then walk me through that. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I mean, we just met and we agreed on price and agreed on terms and sold it, and we're done with it.
Was he a larger company at the time?
No, he was probably, he's probably about $1 million-ish.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, about $1 million when he
Okay.
bought it.
Right.
And then, yeah, so he made a down payment, and then we financed it. And then he ran into some financial issues along the way. And one of our other mowing partners took over from there. And
Really?
that way we get paid. Yeah. So that was just lucky.
How did that work? Walk me through all that.
I spend a lot of time like just constantly talking to guys in the industry, but really, really is focused on locally. So I know a lot of people here in Charlotte in the industry. And I said, "Hey, this guy's getting a little bit tight. I think he's wanting to kind of offload it. You want to grow, like, you could probably buy it for this. That way, that keeps us whole, and it's kind of a discount to you." And so he ended up buying it, and so we'll end up getting paid on everything. So it worked out, and it strengthened another partnership. So
Yeah, that's cool. Again, going back to what you said earlier, and hopefully he's not listening, but would you have given it away or just shut it down?
no, I don't know in hindsight, but
No, you'd kept it.
I think had we not gotten that offer, we probably would. There's probably a pretty high likelihood we'd still be mowing today. In all honesty.
Right.
So
But kind of forced your hand to sell it because he gave you a good offer, and then he couldn't afford it. So it sounds like you probably did that for like a year-ish, 6 months to a year, and then the new guy took over.
Yeah.
And so was that guy forthcoming? Say, hey, I'd sell it for this price, and the other guy just came in and swooped it up.
Pretty much.
That just sounds like some dumb luck to me, man.
Yeah.
That worked out really, really good in your favor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I told the guys, like, we had a meeting this morning with my guys, and we were talking about how you're just one connection away from doubling your company. So, like, go out there, boots on the ground. You guys are really good at knocking doors. You're really good at talking to people. But, like, make sure you start talking to other business owners in your area. Get to know the other lawn care companies. Get to know their pest control companies. Like, do your due diligence. Get to know everyone. And just become friends with everyone because you never know what could happen,
So that came out of
It sounds like Lindsey, you're already in that path.
well, that came out of getting pretty frustrated one night. We had NALP in Charlotte. So we had Elevate here in Charlotte 2 years ago. And we got invited to like a meet and greet or a happy hour after one night from another company that was out of town. There's a really, really big operation that's looking to expand into our market. And so we go there and we meet for the first time a bunch of other guys that are in our market at their event. And they're here like trying to buy companies up. You know what I mean? And I remember I walked out and I was like, this is ridiculous that we just met a bunch of our competitors and people that we could partner and grow with over the next couple of years at someone else's event. Like that's embarrassing. I was mad. So I made it a mission to meet anyone and everyone. Like if I saw a new yard sign, I'd call them, I'd ask my vendors and just, I mean, there's a while there I was trying to get lunch with a different person every single week for a while. And we met a lot of people last year. It was good. It worked.
Yes. So now that you guys sold the landscaping lawn care side, been focusing strictly on fertilization weed control, how's that been for the business? How has it been for both of your relationship? How's it been for the partnership?
I mean, I think it's been great. It's been a lot simpler, which is the biggest thing. So like, I can't imagine, like when I look back about with mowing and quoting those types of jobs, it's like, I can't believe how difficult the business was back then. So things being simpler just makes us want to simplify things even more and more going forward. So yeah, that's kind of the simplification for me is like a big deal.
Better focus. The
Mhm.
whole team more focused. Mowing is like an all-consuming thing, you know. Like it's just
Yeah, and it helps with like the team members, the managers.
It's like the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right?
Hmm. Yeah, so just the too much of like 10 to 30% of people's time being diverted throughout the day for problems that weren't the ones that were driving our business. You start adding 10 to 20% up of like 5 or 6 people's time, that adds up.
Yeah. So I was saying the squeaky wheel gets the grease, where it's like you have this thing over here that's growing. You don't have to touch it. It's where your profit's coming from, even though the mowing is profitable. Then you have this other thing over here that's just getting all the attention because there's so many issues with the equipment, people, blah, 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 blah. And it's like all of a sudden all attention's going to this thing that's not making as much money as for the weed control, and it's not as scalable. I went through the same thing. That's why I know. Like, it's so true. So it's been what, a year now?
Yeah, a little over a year. But I also think too that, it's a lot of people like the idea initially of a full service because you have control over everything, you can do everything. But as your company grows, there's this fear that like the industry can become a commodity, meaning everyone's the exact same. So if you pick a few things that you can actually be really good at and actually differentiate yourself with, it's much better in your business model. So we're able to focus more on just getting better at the things we do versus being just like everyone else.
Yeah, the riches are in the niches, right?
Hmm.
And it's so true. Like, again, I went through all the same stuff, and it's like the business mowing's is a hard business to scale. It really, not that it can't be done, because it can. It's not a bad industry, especially, but every market's different too, right? Like North Carolina is different than Dallas, Texas, where they have 4,000 square foot yards, or over in Canada, and their larger square footage is like 3,000 square feet. Well, that makes that, to me, that kind of makes sense. You can drop a truck and trailer with two guys with push mowers and bang out 30 jobs a day, you know?
Yeah, and our mowing business model didn't align either. So we didn't do mow, blow, and go. It was high end residential in a very tight area. So we'll spray a pretty good area of Charlotte, but we wouldn't mow in all those areas. So we didn't have the synergy of like, hey, just because we spray you, we'll mow your grass. And the clientele for those two types you'd market to are vastly different. Someone in a high end residential that wants full service versus just anyone who wants, fertilization and weed control. They're two different clients, basically.
I think high-end residential, like ultra high-end residential mowing is just super, super hard to scale because that's a really difficult customer to market for. Most of those people are buying on word of mouth and referral, which slows it down. The CapEx is crazy. The labor cost is higher. It's just, in our market, there's one company that's really good. I mean, like awesome high-end residential. Um, They've probably got 500 or 600 customers, mowing customers, but they've been in business for 40 years. It's like, that's not scale. That's not, you know what I mean? It's like, I remember sitting there thinking, like, this took 40 years to build. Like, I'm not, no way. There's no way. That's crazy.
Yeah. I kind of did the same thing as I was growing this company. We were doing relatively decent numbers for the town that I live in. And then I looked around and I was like, why in the past umpteen years that this town's been here, why has there never been a big landscape company, like a big all inclusive lawn care company? Like, it's just because it can't be done. Not here anyway, like, so even though lots of people have tried and they've grown decent businesses, you can never just grow a big thing here. So I was like, the writing's on the wall. Like, I get it now. Just took me a lot longer than it should have. So how have you? I know the story, but for sure is. Um, so you guys get some money from down payment for this thing. You guys put some fuel on the fire with FineTurf. Um, you guys already have a program from Branden? I'm assuming. Do you guys change the program? Do you double down on what you're doing? And then how do you guys start scaling this thing?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the program side, yeah, it's always been pretty much set in stone, and then we tweak it a little bit here and there. Maybe 10% of the program every year gets tweaked based on what we see with and a combination of me and our agronomist Jay, who we spoke about earlier. He does a lot of the research and tries to find ways to get better on the program side of things. Um, and then I guess in terms of scaling, at least in my opinion, one of the biggest things that we realized over the last year and a half was when we were small, marketing has a different term that means something different than it did then. Because like when you're small, you don't have a big budget, right? You can put some money in Google Ads, you can do a little bit of things here and there, LSA, but then you start like if you're just relying on those things, eventually your cost per lead goes up. You need to find other sources, other avenues, actually market, not just like dump maybe 100K into Google Ads. So marketing now is more of like, how do we get better blogs? How do we get better newsletters? How do we do better upselling? How do we put door hangers on properties? Like the word marketing has just expanded so much, especially with AI too, crawling online. So to me, it's like marketing has just completely changed in what we thought it was a year and a half ago, because you can't just spend infinite amount with Google. Your return gets diminished very quickly.
Yeah, I think for the last 20 years, marketing's all been the same. And also in the last year and a half, 2 years, marketing's completely changed. The old stuff still works, but the game's changing for sure. Like, especially with AI and video and all the stuff that's coming. Like, if you're not on video, you're not doing video, you will be obsolete in the next 2 years. You have to be on there. And with the AI and crawling, like, it's gonna be, yeah, the game's definitely changed. You're not wrong. You just have to be on the forefront of it, which you guys are doing. Are you guys liquid or granular? What do you guys do?
Both. Mostly granular nutrition, though.
Yeah. 3 out of our 8 rounds are granular. Granular is most of our big nutrition, and all the 5 rounds in between is your weed control apps, scrub control, all that kind of stuff. So we do both.
And you guys are year round, right? So you guys are. I know we talked about this a little bit. We can talk about that too. Is like you guys have never been able to take off the holidays. It sounded like in the past, but this was your first time ever taking off the holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We pretty much can run year round. So, I mean, the goal is to finish right before Christmas Eve and start back doing a bunch of like in depth training and kind of boot camp with the guys the first week of the year, and then starting back, either middle of the first week or second week of January. But we don't have any weather delays. I mean, we're pretty much year round. It's just a matter of can we get all the work done before Christmas so we don't have to work between Christmas and New Year.
Yeah, which is awesome. Which is another nice thing about the business model, right? Because with mowing, like
Oof.
you have to show up every single week, every other week at the same time, same place, and where you guys can't leave. Where like you guys shut down for a week and a half or 10 days, and no one even know the difference. You guys got to spend some time with family, enjoy your life. Like, yeah, it's totally different ball game when you're in this industry for sure. So, like you had said earlier, that you want a control of your time, Branden, like being an entrepreneur, right? And now with mowing and landscaping, you don't have a lot of control of your time. Now you have control of your time back.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, definitely trying to cut back on hours a little bit here, and not just hours, but like having a more structured schedule. When it was a little more chaotic, it was really hard to have a schedule. Things would just come at you left and right. But as we've grown, got a better leadership team, I feel like we do have more control over our time now.
Yeah, for sure. Um, What are your guys' goals for for 2026? And we're just starting this podcast coming in a couple weeks, but right now it's the first week of January. What are the big goals for the year? What do you guys got planned?
So I'd like to do north of 5.5 top line. One of our internal numbers that we kind of track. I mean, we don't really talk about this. You care?
What's up?
Just like number we care, we shoot for, growth and profit. So we want to shoot for a growth plus profit of 50 or more. So, be it 35% growth and 15% net, or 30% growth, 20% net or more. Just because, we want extreme growth, and we're fine with as much growth as possible, but we are self-funded, so we have to profit so that we have money to go back into marketing every spring. We can't just grow at 50% and make a 3% margin. We wouldn't be able to grow the next year. So we have to make some money along the way. And then reducing attrition. That's kind of our big things, is that top line goal, that growth plus profit. And then, we want to try and get our attrition to, just below 19% next year. So
That's my next two questions. What's your guys' plan for growth to hit those numbers of 50%? And then what's your plan for churn?
Well, I mean, me and you talked about this a little bit, and then I know you talked with Peterman, but one of the big changes we made this year is our salespeople. So before, we had salespeople and all they did was sell. So once you get those credit card numbers, they're gone, never talk to them again. And whereas that can be good for sales, it's not great for retention. So now our salespeople are handling pretty much the entire client journey. So more of an account manager approach versus sales. Now they're still 100% over the phone, but if you call in and buy today, and 3 weeks later you call in after your first app and you still have a weed in your yard, well, it's pretty likely that whoever sold you is going to answer that phone and say, yeah, Jonas, I completely understand. Let me get your technician back out for a service call and have a better client journey. And then on the production side, some stuff that Brian and Branden have worked on. Brian's our operations manager. He manages everything to do with production. But, we'll have the same technicians on the same yards all year. And, technicians knock the door, before service emails, after service emails, that's all pretty normal stuff. But I genuinely think that account manager, that, friendly voice, same person all throughout there taking care of them. And then, their pay structure is incentivized on sales, preventing cancels, and preventing skipped services.
Love it. Super smart. Yeah, I think you just have to have a lot of touch points in there too.
Yeah.
I agree with all that. And some of the things too on the technician side with training is, I think for so long we focused on how to do the perfect app, which is great to do. But now, in some of our trainings, we're asking here's some common questions that customers may ask you. Let's role play these. Let's actually figure out how to talk to these customers, give them valuable information, and let them know if they have a problem, we're here, versus just spraying the lawn, talking about what's going on in the yard. We're trying to have our technicians be a little more customer facing, customer friendly, and can help them with multiple problems.
I think that's a major mistake we made in the first few years, was the mindset of, my goal is, all I care about is that technician does a perfect application every time, leaves the yard sign. That's good. That's his job. And in the last couple of years, we've really leaned on those guys and leaned on those technicians a lot more and more. Their pay structures changed. They make more money because of it. But I mean, we lean on our technicians really, really hard and expect a lot, and they do a really good job. They've gotten so much better in the last year.
Yeah, I mean, they're the customer facing people, right? They're the ones who are constantly talking to the customer. And what I do like about fertilization weed control is there's a lot more touch points. Or if you do quarterly pest control, it's 4 times a year. You guys are probably showing up 7, 8 or more. I don't know the exact number. We have a lot more touch points with that technician to talk to the customer. So that's super smart. But then just going back to your CSR, your salespeople, your technicians, your executive team, you're all speaking the same exact language. So no matter who they talk to, you guys are all speaking the same language on the door, over the phone, at meetings, whatever. It's always very cohesive for for the customer, right? And their entire journey. I think it's very smart what you guys are doing.
Then you also mentioned about like marketing and scaling, like how we're going to grow. I mean, we're kind of doing the same things we did years before. Last year was the first time we did Facebook ads. Like we are going to dive more into that this year. We're trying some of the old school methods of like, every door direct mail, not quite every door, but targeted every door direct mail roughly. It's like that game of like, you want to try new things, but you don't want to try too many because you don't want to be terrible at 5 different things. You got to be good at 2 things. So it's like trying to put 1 or 2 new things in a year or test 1 or 2 new things differently than you did in years past. So that's kind of, I think, my thought going forward is just try a few new things, but not too many to where you're bad at all of them.
Yeah. Awesome. Good advice.
The last piece of our growth would be we've got another branch starting about 3 hours away from here, which I'm excited about. And we, I went up there and just kind of went and met with like larger commercial companies and property management and just like went after larger scale commercial. It's lower margin for sure, but doing that gives us the ability to have at least enough revenue. We'll make money. We won't make a lot, but we will make some money in year one. But it gives us enough revenue to put a manager up there and a technician and for that to grow without just sinking money into marketing, for 2 to 3 years and having to recoup that revenue, recoup that investment. We can be profitable year one. And then if it goes well and that branch manager gets, his feet under him and gets the branch stood up, then we can start using some of this marketing to go after the residential market in 2027. And I hope that'll be a really nice way to expand and grow without having to sink money in until we can recoup that investment.
Yeah. What was your guys' reasoning for branching out? What happened there? Was say, hey, we want to have a second location. Did things just align, or was just an idea you guys have been running past? Like,
Kind of. I'd met some guys at Elevate. They were doing commercial and talked to them about it, and I liked it. And I started kind of looking for some work here in Charlotte, and I ran across a guy that was out of town about 3 hours away. And he said, well, why don't you just do my work here? And I was like, all right, that sounds good. So we figured out how to do it. We did it. And then there was kind of like that light bulb of like, we can get a lot more of this work. Like I can get a lot of this pretty like quickly, and so we did. And, and now hopefully we'll be able to spread out like some marketing dollars across a couple branches going into 2027.
awesome. What's your goal for that branch for this year?
My big scary one would be $1 million. I think we'll probably do 800 pretty easily, but $1 million that's kind of like the big ridiculous goal. So $1 million in year one.
That's awesome. Which I know you guys can do it. Then I'll just ask you that question. Like each of you personally, what's your guys' personal goals this year?
I mean, I know for me, my biggest goal revolves around having more, not necessarily time, but energy with my wife. It's something we talk about a lot. Like, regardless of what time I get home, whether it's 4 o'clock or 7 o'clock, I just feel drained from work sometimes. So it's my personal goal is getting a better handle on my schedule, doing more things that I enjoy doing. So then when I am home with my wife, whatever time that is, I have more energy. And then just, some personal habit stuff like continue to work out in the morning, continue to try to read 30 minutes a day, just basically stay on track with the current habits and find a way to have more energy when I'm home.
Love it. How's it been going so far?
We just got back into our routine, so we just got back in on Monday, but I'm excited to work towards this goal. I know it'll be kind of an up and down. That's the way things go in terms of like energy levels when you get home. But so far so good.
I just want, in most areas of life, I just want like very marginal, consistent improvement. I know that doesn't sound real big or flashy or exciting, but when I look back at the things we're really good at or the parts of life that's really good in business and in family, they're the things that have been like the most constant and steady, slow progression. And so that's kind of a goal, is to not go after like some crazy big ridiculous concept or idea, but just be more consistent professionally, and then more consistent and intentional with my time at home with my kids and wife.
Yeah, I'd add too, one of the biggest things I've always struggled with, it's had a big impact. One of the biggest things too on my kind of goal list that really goes into all those other areas is sleeping, meaning like, being an owner, like there's so many nights where I'll sleep 3 hours because I'll wake up at midnight and I'll start working on a problem, and then it catches up to you. You don't feel like working out the next morning. You maybe you stay late because now you're thinking about this big problem. It's so, like, to me, it's being, like Lindsey said, being consistent, whether it's my sleep, my working out, my reading, whatever it is. Trying to just develop that consistency. But sleep has been a big eye opener for me recently. So I don't think especially maybe as I get older, it's worse, but like trying to function on 5 to 6 hours of sleep consistently, I kind of get drained by Thursday.
Yeah, it's like you wake up at 3 a.m. and like you're just sitting there laying, and all of a sudden you think of what you're working on, and it's like now you're wide awake. Like now you're locked into this problem. Like, how can I solve this problem? Like 3 o'clock, laying in bed trying to solve this problem, and because it just doesn't shut off.
Yeah.
Do y'all track your sleep?
So I did for a while, but I haven't. I haven't for probably 6 months. I haven't.
So I got this watch. My wife got me this watch for Christmas, and it tracks my sleep. So like you get, I don't know, it tells you your time of sleep, how much deep sleep, light sleep,
REM sleep, yeah.
and then how much you were awake during the night, and it's silly, but
Which one is it? Which one did you get?
a Garmin.
Yeah, gotcha.
So like, when you're getting ready towards the end of the night, like, I don't know, you're definitely just as probably more so like analytical and numbers and database. You get to the point where you're like, I know I need to get this sleep, and you start thinking about like, I need to get in bed now, like, I need to limit screen time before bed. And like you come up with this whole game plan of like, it's like a game of like, I'm gonna sleep better. And I don't know. It works.
It looks good on paper.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I am focused. At the end of the night, I'm like, I need to get in bed. I need to go to sleep. Like,
yeah. Branden, you talk about reading 30 pages or 30 minutes a day, which I like to do as well. Any good book recommendations?
Well, I was the first one to review your book, so I'll pitch yours right here. Yours was definitely a good book that was actionable. A lot of the books, there's a lot of books I read, but there's a few that I go back to a lot. So like Great Game of Business is a great book. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, another great book. Trying to think of any others in particular. Most books you can get something out of them, but those are the two for some reason that I tend to read at least once a year.
And just so everyone's aware, I didn't ask him to pitch the book. But I appreciate it. I never thought about writing a book ever in my life, ever, to be honest with you. But now that I've wrote one, I'm like, there has to be a second now. Can't just stop at one. So I got my eyes set on that. Not anytime soon, but I already got the name picked out. Now it's just the concepts.
Well, you picked an industry that's ever changing, so it's probably pretty easy to update the material every few years.
It is, for sure. And I have some friends that are authors too, and they'll release like volume 1, 2, 3, like you guys know. So that's kind of cool and exciting. Again, we just crossed over 500 books. Not that it's a lot of books, but like, I'll be 100% transparent like I always am. I thought maybe we'd sell 50. So like, there's zero ad spend behind it, no money put behind it for marketing spend at all. It's all been organic. So to sell over 500 books, I was like, dang. And then a guy told us yesterday on a call that he like searched like best pest control books or something, like he's trying to learn, and our book popped up. So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So kind of exciting stuff. But again, I never pictured that to happen. It just happened,
Mm-hmm.
One last question for both of you. I know I'd only keep you an hour, a little bit over that now. I'll let you guys get back to work, but I'll let you guys, one can go first, and then the other person can think on it. But as of 2026, looking back, what are you guys most proud of?
Kind of briefly went over this at our leadership meeting. It's kind of the question. We just went on a leadership retreat, and we kind of asked this of all of our managers too, like, what would you be proud of looking back? I think for me, a few things like work-wise would be like stability in the sense of like we've refined what we're really good at. It's not some big audacious goal. It's we refined what we're really good at, and like everyone is enjoying their jobs. We're not overworking people. It's basically like we've created this essentially a scalable business where people enjoy what they do. And our communication with our leadership team has grown 5 times, meaning we're all open. We're all okay to disagree. We're okay to air out whatever we want to air out in front of each other. And we just kind of have this, great leadership team that as we expand to other markets or as we grow this branch, that we're just more prepared in the future and we're enjoying it along the way.
I would say it's pretty similar, but just like the thing that we've built, the opportunity it's given us so far, and it's just with a lot of small, marginal, consistent improvement and just consistently refining and getting a little bit better. But, we've gotten, business like the numbers, the revenue, the profit, the trucks, like it's cool. It's really cool. But, we've gotten to go to weddings. We've gotten to see people buy houses. We've gotten to see, people grow up and, move up in the company. And, Brian was my first employee and now he's our operations manager, and being able to see that progression. I've had the time of my life doing it. And, one of our salespeople just got engaged, and she said, "Hey, are y'all going to come to the wedding?" And it's like, absolutely. This is the best part of running a company. It's like seeing people get married, buy houses, and like, their personal lives get better. Or like when someone comes in and, 9 months into starting here and they say, "Hey, I've hit my 12-month financial savings goal 3 months early." It's like, they've worked their ass off. They've been disciplined. They've been diligent, and, they did it themselves, but, you got to be a part of it. You get to see a lot of victories. And then most recently, me and Branden both had to take some time away pretty unannounced due to family stuff. Just kind of drop a hat. We had to leave. And, the business took care of us. We were fine. It wasn't, we weren't being called back for a million things or interrupted, or, we still worked because we wanted to, but like, we were able to go and do what we needed to do unbothered. And all that kind of merges into one of this thing that has been built by, us, but everyone that's worked here is, you just get to be a part of really cool things.
Cool, guys. Well, I won't keep you any longer. Thanks for your time. It's been exciting to watch you guys from when we first started talking to where you guys are already at today. It's going to continue to be awesome to watch you guys' journey. Can't wait to see what happens with the second branch. Really exciting. Obviously, I'm sure I'll talk to you guys along the way, but good luck. Happy New Year, and go crush it, guys. But again, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Talk to you soon. Later. Hey guys, thanks for listening to another episode of Pest Control Millionaire. We don't charge any money for the show, but the podcast isn't free. Please like and subscribe and give us a 5-star review in your favorite podcast app. This makes a huge difference for us. If you have any specific questions about your business or your personal life that you'd like answered by me or any of my podcast guests, please send an email to info@pestcontrolmillionaire.com. And if you want to get in touch with me about our marketing class, we do a live version every Thursday night. Check out our website at pestcontrolmillionaires.com. Thank you guys for listening. I'll see you guys in the next one.